Okay, so this will be my 2023 school year lecture for Photoshop 4. Excuse me. So today we're going to be talking about the pen tool, and quite simply put, the pen tool is the full manual option for creating a selection. So last week we had talked about the different selection tools that you might use, and we use them for the purposes of making masks, which is primarily what people use selections for. But there were some limitations with the selection tools that we had. The magnetic lasso tool, while very good and very solid to use and doesn't leave many mistakes, isn't perfect. It did make some mistakes. Say when you go around the very edge of the canvas, it doesn't just move straight across the edge of the canvas. It's trying to figure out some shading information there, and so it might have left you some jaggedness at the bottom of your characters or towards the top. With the quick select brush, it may find that some colors are closer together than you think is quote unquote accurate to your point of view. So you might select some stuff that you didn't mean to select with the quick select brush. So, and of course, those were easy to correct with the manual changes we made on the mask with just the brush tool in black and white. So the point of the pen tool should be hopefully to avoid all of the cleanup after you make your selection, because it's such a detail-oriented selection tool. So the pen tool is very much like what we were talking about last week with the polygonal lasso, which I'll show here again. So the polygonal lasso, as we remember, was very connect the dots, right? It would just trace a point or a line between each of the points that you placed for the lasso. And the end result, of course, was that your lasso shape would be very jagged. It'd be very polygonal in its shape because it doesn't allow for curvature. Well, that's what is so great about the pen tool. If we flip back down here, is when you place the so-called anchor points for your pen tool, just like if you were doing the polygonal lassos I just showed you, the difference being is that you can control the path through those points. So if you just click like you were with the polygonal lasso, it's going to give you just sharp polygonal jagged edges, just like when you're using the polygonal lasso. But if you click and hold and drag your mouse, that will allow you to make a curvature through that point and make it smooth. So what that would look like is if I say make a point here and then make a point here and drag, right? See how it's making that curve? And then I can click here and drag, and you can see how it's making a curve there. Click here and drag, and you can see how it's making a curve there. Right? So that also is an example of, so these are called, the fancy term is Bezier curves. That's the legit term. But you can just call it a pen tool path, and then I refer to these things, they're either called the handles or just I call them rubber bands, because they control tension like if these had rubber bands on them. So the rubber bands for your curve apply the tension going into and out of a point. And so if you look at, I have the 4 points here made, but they have very wide curves. So let me delete my path for a second. So one thing to note about the pen tool path is that the larger your handles, the more your next point is going to have to inherit, is the right word, inherit some of this tension from the rubber bands. So if I just click and make a point, let's say right here, you'll now see how the rubber band makes it still go way out before arcing back to this point. So the rubber bands control both the tension into a point as well as the tension through and out of that point. So the tension was created, we placed this first point, boom, we clicked and made this second point and dragged the rubber bands out to give it a lot of tension to make this curve. But the result is that if the next point, can't follow that amount of tension, it will rebound on you. It will give you this arc back. So when you're making your curves, you want very subtle, very simple, very small rubber bands, very small Bezier handles. So check it out. So let me go down here, and I'm going to start by her. We'll start up here by Fishbones, actually. We'll start by Fishbones. So take my pen tool, and let me zoom in a little more. And so I'll click and make a point here, and then I'm just going to make a simple click and drag there. Very small, very subtle. Click and drag there, and I don't like that point, so I'm just going to Command Z and undo, and do it again. I don't like that one. I can undo it again till I'm happy with it. And so a lot of today and tomorrow should be placing a point, being like, oh, that didn't work, undo. Boom. Okay, that works. No. Because the end result should be, once this is all done, and so I'm just going to quickly just boom, and then we'll boom. Okay, so we went all the way around Jinx. Yay, very good. We're so skilled. Hell yeah. So, come on, Chris. It's not like you're a professional or anything. Oops, that one's not good. I'm holding my mouse at a bizarre angle. Okay, and then boom, and then yay, we did it. We went all the way around Jinx. So you'll notice a couple things. Firstly, if you notice, my anchor points are now white on the inside. When your path completes, I'll be able to show you folks in class. I don't think it'll show up on the video, but there's a little circle that shows up on your indicator. On your, so see how that little circle is there? That's saying, hey, this will complete your path. So when I click there, so notice how they're white. I click there, now all of the points become blue because this is a completed path. It goes all the way around, right? So how do we get this to become a selection? Right click, make selection. Okay, and now it's just like we were working with last week when we made the selection using the other selection tools. So again, once your path is done, you just, on the pen tool, have to right-click it and make a selection, hit OK. And again, as a note, you don't want to have masks on your layers before you make them. So if you see a mask over here, before you hit this mask button, you need to delete it. Okay, so then I can mask this here. And there we have it. Boom. Yay, done. So I have this mask made, right? So let me undo making that mask for a second. These areas, right? So there's this area between Jinx's stomach and like her elbow here. And then there's also going to be this area between her hair and her forearm and hand here. So you want the outline to follow the absolute outside outline of her silhouette, because once you have, say, your, give me one moment. Let's say you have, this is all, boom, in your selection, and then we did this correctly. Yay. Here, I'll do this. Yay, yay, yay. Cool, so we have this selection made. And then we have our mask made, yay. So then you would just come back in after the fact, and you will again make, your shape here. And I'm just being very rough for a moment. You will make it a selection again, but you don't hit the mask button again because you'll notice that nothing will happen, right? It will create what's called a vector mask, which you don't want to use. So instead, you would just do like you would manually with the brush to fill it in, but The selection will keep it so that your color does not go outside of that area. So then if I don't want this area to be visible, I would switch my color to black and then just use a big brush and boom, edit that mask. That area is no longer visible. So again, you'll start by making the main outline all the way around her as best you can fit it. And then you'll go back after the fact and make smaller selections with the pen tool. But then that time you'll just paint them on the existing mask with black rather than hitting that mask button again. You had a question.
How do I create the selection on the pen tool?
When you have your path finished, you with the pen tool right click on the path and then hit make selection, and then when the little window pops up you'll hit OK. Alright, so one thing I wanted to point out, folks, is that as you go, you should be, if you make a mistake or you're unhappy with it, the pen tool is very much a measure twice, cut once kind of tool, which means to say you should be certain that you're happy with the point before you move on. That isn't always possible, of course, so I would just point out that primarily you want to get those points right as you go. Don't be in the mindset that you will fix things after the fact, because that's not the point of the pen tool. The point of the pen tool should be that as soon as you make your selection and you mask it, you should be like 98% done. Because like I said, the only things you'll need to go back and fix are the areas where, you know, the silhouette doesn't match exactly with where there is enclosed areas. So then you just got to find areas like in between this gun handle, under here, over here. There's technically a little one right here too. There's also a little one right here too if you are nitpicky. I'm not going to grade you down if you forget those, but just, you know, for your info. So yeah, but those will be the only things you have left. The hope being is that you fitted your outline so well that you don't need to touch that up. You're done. You're done with the outline portion. You just need to go find the parts that you could not get while you were doing the silhouette. But if you need to edit your points, the keyboard shortcuts for these two different things are Alt and Command. So if you already have a curve made, so let me see. Right? And so I have that path made. I come in here and I realize, oh, I actually screwed up right here, or I need to change this around. Well, if I need to change the curvature, I can hold down the Alt key. And for my people who are not watching the video, I'm going to zoom in for a second because it's not going to show up on the video. If you hold Alt, see how your cursor changes? This is what's called the Convert Anchor Point tool. And then it'll allow you to redo the Bezier curves on that. Rechange the rubber bands. So if you get them wrong, you can convert them and change them. Or, like this one, I realize, oh, maybe I don't need this point as close to this if I fix the curves. Well, if I hold Command, then I'll be able to, so this is why you have to double click it. So you hold Command and double click the individual point. Then when you hold Command, it will allow you to move the point. And so now I might convert this here and make it a little better, and then hold Command and move that there. And now you can see how, if I zoom out, sorry, my people who are watching on the video, you'll see how the curvature matches much nicer now because I adjusted and converted the anchor point, as it's called. I don't know why it's called the Convert Anchor Point tool, but it is. So that is how you can edit them after the fact. So either Alt to change the curve, which this is the one that if I make mistakes, this is where I usually make the mistake. I just need to redo the curve a little bit. Or if you find you need to nudge the point around, those are both available, Alt and Command. These last few things are just sort of for your info based on our discussions from last week of making the masks from the other selection tools. So, for example, the biggest example was for the Anya one, which I guess, you know, because I'm doing the video, I'm going to go ahead and just open this up real quick for sake. My first period kids, if you're watching this, you weren't so lucky. So let's say we got this one, right? And last week I said, hey, this one's really good with the quick select brush tool. And so you can quick select brush, boom, and boom, and boom. Now, the quick select brush also included this little bit of shirt here because it's in the shadow part of the brick, so it's less discerning about this gray color down here. So, when we mask this, that actually doesn't really matter to what I'm saying. Anyway, so the mask, when we selected though, was the background was what we had selected. So the mask removed Anya and left the background, right? So I had shown you the invert mask button right here, which is still very useful. And then that just brings out Anya. So the other option would be, hey, once we made this selection, we could also Command-Shift-I, invert our selection, and so that way when we make the mask, it's already set up. That's just, again, for your info. So that's inverting the selection is Command-Shift-I. Command-Shift-I. Or, so I'll do this with the colors just for fun. Command-I is invert, and that will invert the colors. So now Anya, I don't know, be looking sort of like Flame, honestly. But that's Command-I. As in invert, that inverts the colors, but when it comes to the purpose of a mask, that would invert, you know, what is hidden and what is not when you invert a mask, right? Because you're inverting the white and the black. So that's just for your info. That's not like super relevant to today per se, but just so you know. So the meat and potatoes of today, so to speak. Let me delete my layer mask, and I'm going to delete my existing path. Delete path. So you should be following around Jinx as all the way as best you can. No, we don't need these electrical sparks. You can ignore the electrical sparks. I understand that the end of her hair and the end of the minigun being in the smoke will be somewhat difficult. Just do your best. Know and understand that I will be very forgiving with those areas, so please do not get super antsy about those. What I will be looking for, though, is I want to see nice, smooth masks. So what I get a lot of people trying to do on this first one, so this is what not to do, is that they just place hella points next to each other and they think that that's going to end up looking right. And that, again, these aren't even curved. They're just like clicking and dragging and just making hella points. And then I get something that like looks like this here. So let me do. Oh wow, I'm doing it, Mr. Meyer, yeah. And then I get something that looks like so. And it's like mostly good, but I can see how jagged this is. There'll be some leftover bits and pieces in here. This is a qualitatively graded assignment. So, you know, if you do 70% of the work, you'll get a 70%. This is not like just do it and turn it in. So take the time. That's why I have factored in 2 days of workday for this. Take the time to get your selections done properly. Very nice, clean mask. Okay? So, questions, comments, concerns at this time? Okay. One thing, folks, I'm going to do a quick bit of the demo here so I can leave it in the video. So, like, I'm going to start here at Fishbones, I guess, just because that's where I've been doing it today. So, I'll start with Fishbones, and then basically the point here is, folks, you just want small, subtle curves to help keep the flow of the line throughout, because the original artist did not use a straight line all the way throughout, so neither should you. So, like, right there, boom, just very subtle curve, put a little one right there, boom, subtle little curve there. And you can see I'm just doing little clicks and drags, very small rubber bands as I go along this. But now I have a sharp corner, so I'll click and point a corner there, boom, sharp corner to, actually it's not really a sharp corner, but I'll straight line to there, curve around the corner a little bit, and then curve through here. And then again, small curves, very subtle. You don't want to overpower the rubber bands with too much tension, so to speak. And so again, small. You can see, again, not too much distance between my points, but they're also not right next to each other. Okay. And again, I'm just undoing right here because I'm unhappy with these points. Oh, this, I'm stupid. This is part of it. Boom. This buckle. And then small curves. Small curves. Okay. And then, here, I'm going to cut across the bust. We'll come up over here. Since I'm shortcutting, again, you're doing the whole character. And so small, subtle curves, even though you want to follow the line of the body of the silhouette as best as possible, so don't generalize it. And then follow this part of the hair. If you miss this part of her hair here, this little gap, that's not going to matter to me in the slightest, just FYI. Boom. And so there's a lot of waving in the shape of the hair. There's a little bit of a curve here, and so like that doesn't work, so I need to do this. Very small rubber bands. Very small and very subtle. So you can see multiple. Oh, this should be more there. Whoops. Very subtle curves. Almost done with. I'm gonna start cycling around to help people in a minute. I just need to finish up this small part. So I'll snag down to there, and then boom. All right, boom, we're there. So small curves, boom, and then right click and make a selection, hit OK, boom. And then, so like in here, I'm gonna start sort of down here. We'll draw a little curve. Boom, boom, boom. Follow this up and around. All right. You know what? I'm going to command and I'm going to move this. I'm going to add a point here and move that in. Okay. There we go. So I'll make a selection again. Right click, make a selection. This time though, I'm just going to make sure I'm selected on my mask. Grab my brush tool and black inside that selection. Boom. Command D to deselect, and now if I zoom out, that's what I got. So again, you want to follow all of Jinx's outline and then make that first mask, and then after the fact you'll go through and make selections with the pen tool, but then edit your mask by painting in those selections. So that is the plan. That is what we're making. All right. Thank you for watching.